part of the cannabis industry. And so for the last 10, 15 years, I've really been kind of studying the market and how it's been developing and the different products that are available to different sorts of cultivators.
That is incredible. I mean, for those of you who maybe have seen their Instagram posts or their page, they're very active. They love educating customers on, quality products, a lot of hydroponics and other things. So we've got an expert in our hot seat today. What can we learn today about just some basic grow lights? And then for our audience, if anybody has questions, feel free to comment or send those in at any time, and we'll try to get them answered during the live stream. But yeah, Bradley, what could we expect when we're gonna start our grow light shopping experience?
Well, you want to kind of know the difference between the types of grow lights and how they're going to affect the plants, and then certain applications and what's going to be best for that application. And so I've got a small presentation prepared that is just going to kind of talk about all the different types of lighting, and then some quick pointers on different applications and use, and then why you would want to apply them in those applications.
Awesome.
Should we get started on the
Yeah,
PowerPoint?
yeah, let's go right into it. We love our visuals. And I'll message you on here if anybody kind of asks questions as we go along.
Okay, I don't know where I'm going to see that because my whole screen is the PowerPoint presentation. I got a little window with us in it, and that's all I can see.
All right, I will navigate it so you don't have to worry about it. How's that?
Perfect.
Perfect.
All right, so understanding grow lights in agriculture and how they affect plant growth. We're going to keep this very basic and just start at the bottom, and then feel free to chime in with questions at any point in time, so we can go into further detail if needed. But first thing we want to look at in this presentation is the topics of discussion. We're going to be looking at the different types of grow lights and choosing the right application for the grow light, common applications, and then we'll have some time left over at the end for questions and answers. So diving right into it is the types of grow lights. And so there's any light that emits photons, a plant can photosynthesize and be able to grow with. But it's a matter of having the right one. And so different types of lights is your basic, most common light is your incandescent lighting, and people do use these for horticulture. They're not the best because you're not getting a high efficiency of light output per watt consumed. And so granted, they do work. They're not something that you would want to set up a grow operation based around. Seedlings and getting plants started indoors before the outdoor season is in full swing. These can be effective, but not very beneficial past just that initial seedling phase. Next, we have fluorescent lighting. Fluorescent lighting hits a higher efficiency level where you're getting more light per watt of electricity consumed. But this light is still not good enough for full-term growth. Some types of plants, low light plants, such as like lettuce, you can grow full-term with a fluorescent light, but when it comes to heavier fruiting plants, tomatoes, vegetables, peppers, squash, things of that nature, you're not going to get a good fruit production out of it because you're not emitting enough photon light for those plants to really photosynthesize and produce well. Next, you have high intensity discharge lighting. So this is really the core common horticulture light and has been for the last 30 years. HID lighting really came into play in the late 70s, early 90s. And these are lights that you would see in like street lamps and barn lights and larger lighting fixtures. They can cover a large area. per bulb, which can be very effective. And the biggest downfalls that you have with HID lighting is it's the heat. These consume a lot of electricity, which produces a high heat output, which can be very difficult in small scale indoor gardening. These bulbs come in different varieties and size. You always want to make sure you're matching your size light to your grow space, and then the color temperature and the type of bulb that color temperature will be produced by is also something to take note when you're working with HID lighting. So these bulbs, there's a metal halide bulb. Metal halide bulbs run in a 5,000 Kelvin spectrum, which is your bright blue. This bright blue is really beneficial for early stages of growth, which is going to be seedlings, early vegetative, and beginning to flower, but not flower. And then the next bulb would be high pressure sodium. So a high pressure sodium is about a 2700 Kelvin bulb, and a 2700 Kelvin bulb is going to have more of a red light, like a warm bulb in your for like a room light is equivalent to what a high pressure sodium bulb is going to be putting out. And these sodium bulbs have a higher intensity discharge than a metal halide, which is part of the reason why you see these most commonly used in flower and fruiting stages of life when it comes to plant growth. Um, Next, we have ceramic metal halide. And ceramic metal halide is kind of a newer technology. It's a metal halide bulb, but it has ceramic elements in it. And the special thing about a ceramic metal halide bulb is that it has more of a full spectrum. It's not in the bright blue, it's not in those deep reds like the metal halide and the high pressure sodium. It's kind of balanced right there in the middle around a 4,000 Kelvin light spectrum. You can use a ceramic metal halide bulb for all stages of growth. They do have higher intensities that you can successfully do that full stage growth, but these bulbs tend to come in lower wattage levels. So you're going to be getting less light per fixture because you're consuming less electricity per fixture. So when you're using a ceramic metal halide and you're designing a grow space, you're going to want to add more fixtures than you would for a metal halide or a high pressure sodium. But you won't have to do any sort of changes in those fixtures when you're transitioning from your seedling and early vegetative stages into late vegetative and flower. So this is kind of the old technology, and over the last 5, 10 years, we've really kind of moved into LED lighting, and LED lighting has become the foundation for most lighting in general all around the planet, and this is because of its high energy efficiency. You are going to get 5 times the amount of light per watt of energy consumed, maybe not that much. In a grow light, it won't be that dramatic, but yeah, you're getting 3 times the amount of light compared to a metal halide or ceramic when you're looking at the amount of electricity that that light is drawing in order to be operating at its full capacity. And then with the LED diode layout, you can alter the color spectrums of the diodes. And so if you look in this picture here, you can see some blue, some red, some purple, some orange. These are all different color spectrums. And when manufacturers design these lights, they can build them so the color spectrum is more natural to sunlight and you're kind of reaching the full spectrum of light compared to like the ceramic and metal halide bulbs and the high pressure sodiums where you're really stuck in that specific color temperature zone that that light produces. So LED lights are excellent because you can use them for all stages of growth. They have a very long lifespan. When you're dealing with a bulb fixture, whether it's fluorescent or high intensity discharge, those bulbs have to be replaced in as little as 6 months. Some of them will last as much as a year. Once you get over a year on any bulb, you start losing efficiency at a pretty dramatic rate, which means you're going to be putting out less light for the same amount of electricity. With an LED fixture, that lifespan is increased by 5 times. There is no degradation period for about the first 5 years, sometimes up to 10 years, depending on the LED diode manufacturer. And so there's no maintenance to these. You don't have to change any bulbs. There's no the cost of maintenance is zero because you really don't have to do anything. And then they're suitable for all stages of growth. So the technology that is kind of coming behind these LED lights is very robust and it's still being developed. Every year we're seeing more efficient fixtures with more dimming options, and it's to the point now where manufacturers are actually separating the color spectrums in the diodes to different areas of the dim control. And so like we have a light that we've designed and sell at our store. It comes with 3 different dimming possibilities, and you've got a UV diode dim spectrum. There is a vegetative dim spectrum, which is your high 5000K bright blue light, and then there is a flower dim spectrum. And so you can alter the color of that light as you're moving through your stages of growth in order to maximize the potential of the plant. Another great thing about LEDs is because you're getting so much intensity, you're actually able to reduce your electrical consumption. And this has been one of the biggest toss-ups between indoor horticulture and its economic viability is the cost of operating a lot of light fixtures can tend to be very high. With LED lighting, you can basically cut that price in half compared to a high intensity discharge bulb. So lower maintenance costs, lower cost of operation, more of a complete light spectrum. And depending on the fixture you get, there's a lot of different capabilities that these lights can have. So now, choosing the right grow light for your space or for the stage of life that you're trying to develop. I mean, there's a lot of factors that can kind of go into this. Biggest one is the type of plants being grown. And so say you wanted to do a microgreens production. You could set up a shelf system with some LED lights or even some fluorescents. Microgreens seedling or basically seedlings that you're harvesting, and so they don't need a really high light intensity. This is a very efficient. It's a very efficient form of growth, and that's one example of choosing the right grow light. So if you're trying to do microgreens, you don't need a bright, high intensity, high end light, HID, or high powered LED. You can go with something really small. Now, say you're trying to do like your spare bedroom, and that bedroom is 8 foot by 8 foot across with an 8 foot ceiling. Now, a room of that size, you are going to want something more with more intensity. And so, using a high intensity discharge bulb or a high wattage LED is going to be more efficient, and you're going to get better production out of that space. And, really determining these factors is a matter of talking to, whoever you're purchasing your grow lights from if you're not familiar with it. And then, having them get a clear understanding of what you're trying to achieve so they can make the proper recommendations. A lot of people that don't have these conversations tend to buy lights that are bright but too small. And when you don't have enough light being emitted, yes, your plants will grow, but you're going to end up with stretchy, lengthy growth, weak stems, and poor fruit and flower production. And so, whether to choose a high intensity discharge or an LED fixture can cost more than 4 times the amount of a high intensity discharge. But you're going to end up paying more per month to run that high intensity discharge light compared to the LED light. And so there's a lot of factors that kind of are going to come into play for you personally and the application that you're trying to do. Um, do we have any questions in any of this so far?
Not quite yet, but you're doing a really great job of explaining it, especially when it came to the LED modules and light spectrums. I think that that's, a really big kind of like what one is the best that's not going to cause me stress. So thank you for explaining that very thoroughly.
Cool. So let's just dive into some common grow light applications. So like what we see in this image here would be like a seed starting or a microgreen setup, and they're using what looks to be fluorescent tubes over a shelf, just kind of like what I was talking about earlier. This is like ground zero of using grow lights. I mean, these can be very beneficial to a backyard gardener, especially in areas like South Dakota, North Dakota, or zone 5, zone 6, where our outdoor growing season is extremely short. And so, having a nice indoor seed germination area can be extremely beneficial. Certain crops like tomatoes and peppers have a very long time to fruit, and sizing your light properly in that seedling grow phase, you can usually get through some early vegetative, and you can start seeds as early as March and then keep them healthy and alive until you can get them outside into May. Another common application for grow lights is greenhouse and greenhouse supplemental growing. Greenhouses are something that is highly sought after here in the state of South Dakota due to our frequent extreme thunderstorms, typically bringing disastrous hail and extremely high winds. Um, but when you're in a greenhouse, you have a shade over the greenhouse and you may not be getting full light penetration. And then you are capturing a lot of your solar rays and heat. And that heat is beneficial, but your plants still won't grow properly if they're not getting the full term of light that they need for that stage of growth. And so if you start seeds early in a greenhouse, because you have the heat load figured out, you're not going to get good growth because you're not getting enough hours of light per day. So supplemental lighting in a greenhouse is extremely common. Actually, HID bulbs are really good for this because they do have a high heat output. And so if you're only using them in the early spring and late fall, you're kind of supplementing that cold outside temperature and you're adding heat into your grow space along with the light that you need. And you can extend your daylight hours. So you're getting enough hours of light per day into the plant space to make sure that everything remains on track and grows healthy. And then by the time you hit, full summer, you turn the lights off and you just let the sun do the work. And then you've got full indoor growth, controlled environment agriculture, indoor home gardens, things of that nature. And in those applications, you're going to want something that is going to be bright enough and then also dim enough at the same time. And so a lot of LED fixtures do come with dimming possibilities where you can turn the light up or down based on the seed or based on the stage of growth that you're in. But you want to make sure that it's bright enough. And so, instead of having multiple fixtures, you can get ones that are dimming and then, turn that light up as that plant matures. Another thing to consider is how much space you're trying. sorry, my mic cut out there. Another thing you want to pay attention to when you're growing indoors is how much space you're trying to illuminate and how much plant is going to be under that space, and keeping sizing the light for the space is essential. And so general rule of thumb for an LED fixture would be 40 watts of LED light per square foot of growth canopy. And so you can kind of take that basic calculation and figure out your space, like we'll say a 4x4 tent that is 16 square foot, times that by 4, you're looking at about a 640 watt grow light was what would be ideal. And then if that light has the opportunity to dim, you can then dim it down to get through your early stages of life and then turn it up when you get into full production. These are the three most common applications. I mean, grow lights can be used in all kinds of areas. I've seen pictures and video of people running string lights to extend daylight hours for certain crops in tropical areas. I think here in our region, it's more or less the opportunity to extend our outdoor growing season or be able to continue and maintain production through the winter months. But with that, that's kind of a basic rundown. I feel like I went through it very fast, and I highly encourage any questions. And then at any time, if you ever want to be more specific to your potential, you're always welcome to come in and see us in Rapid City or give us a call, and we're happy to help.
I was going to say, Bradley, you might need to be on call with just the mathematics between figuring out grow space to grow lights. Um, because I was so thankful you broke that down of like, okay, if I do want to do a greenhouse, I also need to account for how much space I have from there and also how much heat I need to keep in this greenhouse. So thank you for running over that. Have you, you know, a lot of kind of new beginners in the grow light space, is there like a good reference guide for knowing wattage temperatures for different planting stages? Is there like a book or a guide that we can direct people to?
I'm sorry, my headset's cutting out. I'm gonna have to switch microphones here. Let me
Oh, okay, no problem. I'll give you a minute.
let me get this updated real quick. How do I do this?
Underneath the audio settings, maybe.
I had it. I saw it earlier. I think I'm gonna have to cancel my screen share here real quick.
Okay.
Stop share.
While Bradley's doing that, if you ever want to reach out to them, it's they're located in Rapid City and they're very sociable on their social medias. So How to Grow, and they have a lot of different options. I think they're also having a big summer sale right now too.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get rid of those. Let me change my speaker setting here. Hopefully this doesn't reverb. Okay.
Perfect.
Nope, that's not right. Oh. Okay. Did we get it?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right.
Okay, perfect.
So
And so thank you for everybody kind of watching along, but I was asking if there's maybe a resource guide people could refer to learn the different stages of plants and kind of watt usage. Is there a standard reference that you know?
I can't think of any materials right off the top of my head. I do know the recommendation. So, you know, first thing you got to think about is how you're going to gauge what your light intensity is. Typically, you would, technically, you could use a par meter which is your like photoactive range. And that's going to tell you your light intensity. You hold it under the light, and as you move it up and down, you can kind of see what's going on. I think like how they did it back in the day before par meters were like commonly available is you really wanted to just focus on the growth of the plant to make sure it didn't look stressed out. When your grow light is too close to the plant, it'll start to yellow. I mean, it can wilt and burn, and it's gonna be overstressing it. So like if you have a really bright grow light over some seedlings, they're not going to be able to photosynthesize all that light, which is going to try to get them to draw too much nutrients, and that they can't because they don't have the root development yet. They're not spread out into the soil, and so you'll start seeing yellowing. The leaves will start to droop, things of that nature. You want to kind of pick the light up and reduce that intensity. Another general rule of thumb that I always just kind of touch and feel is if your hand is under the light and it's too hot for your hand, it's definitely too hot for the plant. And so you really don't want to be feeling that radiant heat coming off of your light fixture at the canopy level. Your canopy level temperature should be somewhere around room temperature. And, so if you're in a greenhouse, it's 80 degrees in there on a 75-degree day, then, you've got your grow lights supplementing your light output. If you're standing under that light and you can feel it beating down on you, then it's too hot. And then the plants can feel it as well. And it's going to stress the plants out just like it's going to stress you out. And that's kind of like the basic touch and feel guide. So, I mean, if we wanted to be really technical about it, a par meter reads the photoactive range of the light intensity in the space. And that is generally landing somewhere between 0, which is going to be like almost darkness, complete darkness, all the way up to, I mean, it goes really high. A plant really cares about the par range when it hits 1,000 is the maximum. And so, say a scale of 0 to 1,000, 200 is going to be like your seedlings and germination and, very premature growth. And then once you start getting into second and third sets of true leaves, you can increase that up to 400 to 600 in par. So say you're at 50% light capacity at that point. If your light is scaled to the room to where you should be hitting about 1,000 par at 100%, 50% power should get you to that 400 to 600 range. And that's going to be ideal for vegetative growth. And then for flower and, vegetative or not vegetative, flower and fruit production, that's when you want to be at the absolute top. I mean, you're at the peak of summer and you want those plants to be producing as much as possible. So you want to be in that 800 to 1,000 range, being that top 80% of your par. Par does go higher than that, and plants do have the ability to accept more par, but at that point, you really are dialed into your grow environment and you need like a extreme high efficiency irrigation and feeding system for the plant to be able to maintain, and then typically higher carbon dioxide levels in the space so the plant can photosynthesize that extra light and all the nutrient with it.
Wow. That was a really great rundown of just like common sense wise for for light growth, right? I mean, when you think about us, we are just complicated plants.
Right.
And so yeah, being able to test it on your skin, that's something that's really going to stick with me. So thank you for sharing that tidbit.
Yeah. Yep. General rule of thumb: if your hand can't take the heat, neither can the plant.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. And so it's just at the top of your head, is there any other things of like maybe kind of just beginner setup tips or something, one last bit of advice you could leave our audience with?
I would say just general rule of thumb, setting up an indoor grow space, do your research. Definitely, find the articles, find online, come and talk to us at the store. We love to educate people on the different options and, what they're going to be best used for. And, know your grow space, know your size, know the plants that you want to put into it. When you're dealing with grow lights and you want to make an educated decision, and the best tidbit is to make sure that you're giving yourself the opportunity to educate before you dive into something.
That is wise life advice for just about any situation. I will take that. Like, that snaps. I really do appreciate that because plant what you like. And if you like what you plant, it becomes easier when, maybe your first attempt didn't work out or your second attempt didn't work out. And of course, I'm a stubborn person, but asking for help for the experts from Bradley could save you some time and money. So I just want to thank you again for being here today. And again, they're very sociable. If you want to reach out to How to Grow, they're located in Rapid City. And you also kind of host other webinars and talks of things about hydroponics and other things, correct?
Yeah. So during the winter months, that's indoor growing season. So we like to do hydroponic classes. I'm a firm believer that soil belongs outside, and so hydroponics are for indoors. And then so we do a hydroponics 101 where we teach basically all the different types of media, different types of hydroponic systems, what plants are good and certain types of hydroponic systems and vice versa. And, a rundown on mixing nutrients and how to shop nutrient products. It's a pretty full course. It comes with a notes package. It runs about 3 hours to take. And then, we do charge a fee for the class. And part of that fee is actually paying for some hydroponic equipment, because with your class fee, you get pH and parts per million testers, which are, basically mandatory to successfully operate a hydroponic system. And then, I'm doing a quick hydroponics, not the full course, but a 101 at the State Fair in the Horticulture Building, I believe on August 19th at like 1 p.m. I think. I'd have to check my calendar, but that should be. I mean, if you look at the fair schedule, it should be in the fair schedule. And then I've done one at the Hermosa Library. I've been trying to help with hydroponics education in Central High School, and we currently have a hydroponic system operating in the library there for students to look at and hopefully gauge interest. And I need them kids to come and help maintain it.
Yes, but, next gen, and that's very important. We're just educating them and getting them excited about their food.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that's missed, is just in our American culture, we don't really pay attention to where our food's coming from and how it's produced. And so as a company, this is part of the reason why we wanted to start this company. I mean, we're very avid backyard gardeners. I've spent the last 5 years, before we opened the store, I spent 4 years here in South Dakota as a general contractor, building out residential spaces. And I'm just really into it. And so I want to kind of share that knowledge and share that passion. And, there's no better food than food you produce yourself. And, it's whether it's the sweat that you drip on it, or I don't know what it is, but it just tastes better.
That's a powerful statement. It really is. I completely agree with you, even though, maybe it's the blood, sweat, and tears that you pour, that extra saltiness from your tears of like, oh, okay, this was really hard work, but the food tastes exceptionally better.
Yeah, and it's much better for you too. So
much better for you too. Awesome. Well, again, our guest, seriously, How to Grow in Rapid City is such a great resource, and we're very thankful for Bradley sharing his education with us today. If anybody wants to keep in contact, we will have Bradley's contact information in the email and website below in the comments. And so I want to thank you all again for joining us. This segment has been funded under a conservation collaboration cooperative agreement between the Natural Resources Conservation Service and the South Dakota Specialty Producers Association. to promote sustainable agriculture practices and environmental stewardship. Its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of the USDA or NRCS. Again, my name is Christine Reiner. I'm the Communications Coordinator Contractor with SDSPA, and please visit our website or our Facebook page and social medias to see upcoming events. And we look forward to talking with you soon, Bradley. Thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely.